what he does now?
Well, for me, it was very hard. And he was influenced a lot by Frank Bobby. And Frank used to write to Derek, and Frank used to write to Derek, and he adapted. A bit like Chris's example, like Frank writing to him, and what was suitable for Tim Hutchins or what Tim was doing wasn't maybe necessarily at that point suitable for Chris, but similarly to myself, Derek was personal Frank was influenced by him. So I'd say for the first 4 or 5 years, I worked very closely with Derek. He was influenced by people like Frank. But beyond that, I then became more of an advisory relationship, talk to people, speak to other coaches, people with a UK and a world context, and then develop something that suits you on the basis of that.
I think for me, probably the most influential was my first coach, or my only proper coach, was a guy called Brett Weekly from Derby, who just brought us all through as a very good group of juniors. I then had to become self-coached, and I think because I'd had a degree of success fairly early on in my Navy career, it seemed to work for me. So I never had a personal coach from that point on. Frank Hall certainly influenced me. I would speak to him from time to time. I would actually speak to anyone. The other guy that really helped me is a chap that many of you may know, Gordon Crawford, from the Stirling area, particularly on the circuit side. And I worked with Gordon for a couple of years, around 94, 95, because I just felt I was getting to that time in my life where I needed some more expertise on the circuits. But Gordon, for me, was a great motivator. It's funny, you know what we're like. I mean, endurance athletes we're pretty single-minded, but we're also, we're not particularly confident people. We're not like sprinters. There's not this bravado. And I needed someone just to say, Chris, you're going really well. Sometimes it was my wife who'd just say, Chris, you're looking bloody awful. You're looking really thin. And you think, yeah, that's it. Or my mum, my mum is down in Derby, and now and again I'd go down to see her and she'd say, oh my God, what's that? Here's a little story, and it's no offence to anyone. There's a guy in the Navy who I joined the Navy with, back in '79, and I met him again in about '92. And he just said to me, he says, Chris, have you got AIDS? You just look awful. And I said, no, I don't think so. I'm looking really fit. And so, coming back to the question, the coaching. I just took advice from a range of people and distilled it myself. This is going to work for me. But it is good to surround yourself with people who can just provide that positive input that you need from time to time. Because it's hard. It's a hard slog out there. And you think, am I doing the right thing?
I like Taylor. He's a good sound piece as well. I like trained the group on the track at the same time as the group that I trained with. So he actually was never my personal coach, but obviously his involvement in the Scottish Cross Country Union at the time, meant that you were talking to him on a fairly regular basis. So I like a good sounding group as well. I didn't agree necessarily with his approach to interval training. I thought his recoveries were too long, and in terms of cross country, obviously the truth in the pudding is the success in that year, and obviously that was one of my local heroes that you talked about earlier. I remember seeing that year on television, and then 5 years later sharing a room with him at the Melissa International. Living the dream, if you like, so for me it was. But Alec was a good sounding board, a lot of good advice, and particularly in terms of what you do on the day of the race and how you think yourself, think your way through the race, and a good source of humour as well.
It's interesting what you said about self-coach, because I had a seminar with Frank Hall, Frank Kenneth, Don McGregor, John Flanagan, and Flappy Stewart. And the same thing came over with them. They were mainly self-coached. That's what some of them remarked on them as well. They talked about their international Olympics and Commonwealth Games success, and it came across they were mainly self-coached as well. But as you say, it meant advice me.
I think sometimes the coach can be too much of a crux for athletes, something that people rely on too much. I know athletes in my club who change coaches because they kind of blame the coach if you like, things not going well, and really responsibilities. Yeah.
Could I ask, when you were training, did you do all your training in a group, or did you do training on your own? And was there particular sessions or runs you felt it was beneficial to be in a group, and particular sessions or runs it was better to do on your own?
Well, I mean, I mainly trained in a group, but certainly over the period of the career, there were points where you had to do it on your own. And I maybe had a slightly more stable environment. You were obviously differences in different countries of your career in the Navy, but so for me, I did benefit from a strong club environment and training in a group, and I trained with people of a similar ability and people of a different ability. There was one chap, Alan Buckton, a chap, a very talented athlete that I trained with, and he was, in fact, it's interesting. I remember beating him in the club cross country, the Redshire cross country, the Western cross country, the National cross country. He was second in every one of these races. I couldn't actually beat him in training, so that's another story. But we came to an agreement where we'd take a rep each, and we recognised that it could degenerate into a racing scenario. I also latterly trained with a chap called Robert Simmons, who was a 340, 1500 metre runner, and again we played to our strengths in terms of in terms of the shorter, faster reps and pulling me through, and similarly with the longer reps and longer hills and longer runs, etc. So I tended to do that. The Obla type run I talked about, I did that on my own because I needed to think my way through that and make sure I wasn't overcooking it and at the same time not hanging back. So that was my approach. But latterly, also training a lot of people from different ability levels, and you give them a start or just really think your way through. But I enjoyed the group dynamic.
I mean, I very much trained as a group as a youngster, and then by necessity trained on my own an awful lot of times in the Navy. And I think I could have done with some company, certainly on the track reps through my middle years, where I think it's very, very difficult to push out a fast set of whatever it is when you're on your own. It just is. It builds a mental toughness, but you don't get that speed element that I would have liked. I mean, noticeably, my 5,000 metre time is probably weak compared to the others, and I think that's as a result of that quality, of that type of quality traveller. Towards the end, I used to train with this man, and I remember Jamie's not here at the moment. Jamie, we took Jamie McDonald on a set of a hill rep up, what's that? Ben Leddy by calendar. So it was 8 for 3 minutes up a 3,500 foot Munro, and then we did it again on Ben Lomond. And the quality of that work was something that you just couldn't achieve on your own. So. And I have to also pay tribute to, the guys at Carnegie Harriers. Towards the end of my career, I was still running for Inverclyde, but obviously living in Rosyth. And Ian Taylor and Stevie Ogg and Ian Stewart, those guys welcomed me with open arms at their sessions, and it was just wonderful because we did these mile reps, and they'd say, right, just give us 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and I just sort of run them down, and it really, really helps because it just motivates. And I think they got something from it as well. So if you've got groups, if you've got people to train with, then it helps. However, you do need to make sure that you're training at the appropriate, those key sessions, if it's an over. I used to do a lot of fartlek, I should have mentioned that. I'm a big, big believer in fartlek. True fartlek you can actually only do on your own, the truth, because it's you mentally pushing yourself and saying, right, I'm now going to run up this hill. You get to the top of the hill, you think, you know what, I'm not going to stop, I'm going to run to the park bench. And you don't know that at the bottom of it. It's just this mental sort of self-talk and pushing you go through. So if you are on an obla and you're with a group, only one of you is going to be running at the right speed. If you're all running together at the same speed, because we're all different. And even the few sessions I did with Bobby, sometimes it was really quite hard hanging on to this man, because it was just that type of session. He was probably fitter or better at it than I was.
You
both spoke about overruns. How would you progress overruns? Would you progress in speed or distance?
Distance. If there's any progression for me, it would be adding a bit more. Well, the speed, I suppose, yeah, you could progress, but yeah, as the season goes on, the speed would increase, yeah, but you would always run at that lactic threshold, if you like. But for me, it would generally be, if I'm doing any progression, it would be adding an extra mile or so occasionally. But for me, I used it very much as a technique to bring me to a sort of peak, if you like. So I used it for, I didn't do it every single week, but I did it for 4 or 5 weeks in a double type session, because probably pushing the envelope, but I'd done a 10-mile interval session on the Monday night, and I did a 4 or 5 mile over on the Tuesday. So I used it, to run fast while I was relatively tired, and just, if you like, a little quick.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, and heart rate monitors are only sort of coming in as towards the end of my career, and I didn't use one anyway. I'm not saying there isn't merit in it. I'm a really big believer in there. You know, you've got to know up here where that red line is, and that's what overrunning's all about. Because if you don't know where the red line is, and you get in a big cross-country race like the World Cross or say the trial, and you don't know where the red line is, you're going to come seriously unstuck, or you're going to underperform. So, you know, again, for the interval, for everyone, particularly the hard sessions, you should be thinking about how am I feeling? I use a simple scale with myself, and to a certain extent with John, it's a 1 to 10. I'm at a 9. You know, at the end of the session, how are you feeling? Or at the end of that rep, or I'm at 8.5. I don't know what 8.5 is relative to anyone else, but I know that the next rep, if it's a 9, I'm at that sort of level. So it's about, and you can test that as well. A real skill is to be able to go out onto a track and run 800 metres or whatever without a watch, or somebody else has to watch, and say, right, I want you to go and run 2:22. And the good athletes will be able to run between 2:21 and 2:23. And it's that accurate. You need to be able to do that. Go out and run me a 4:54 mile and be within 2 or 3 seconds. And certainly, I'm sure Bobby told me to say, we could do that. I could run a mile within 2 seconds. Because you're in a road race and the mile marker's coming up, you've got to know, am I running at 4:50, am I running at 5:10? And if you don't know that, you're just not really those races.
What kind of forms of cross training did you do in your night of injury? Did you at times sacrifice a bit of fitness to make sure you came back running sooner?
So what was the first bit?
What types of cross training did you find most effective?
I mean, I didn't cross train, I don't think, as much as Bobby. I certainly used to do circuits. When I was at sea, I'd just do anything physical. So it was a lot of shuttle runs on a small flight deck and that kind of stuff. I did do some towards the end of my career. I did some much more swimming and the aqua jogger, but that's just because my hamstrings were knackered.
For me, it's deep water running. I lost my life badly in the early 80s, and I got an aqua jogger, one of the early prototypes sent from America. I don't actually use one now. I just use my own body to and run hard to stay afloat. But I've did aqua jogging or deep water running for 25 years. And I've substituted sessions, and I've tended to replicate what I would do in the road or the track in the pool, but reduce the recoveries significantly. You can't get your heart rate up the same way you can. You're pulling over to try. You can't get your heart rate up the same way as you can with that and sacrifice. One of the dangers with aqua jogging is when you do come back, you're a bit fitter than maybe you potentially would have. Well, obviously you're fitter than you hadn't done the cross training, and therefore the danger of re-injuring is quite high for the first few weeks. But I've found that the most effective way. I've also, the other thing I've done is hill sessions on the bike, which I've replicated a hill session on the road. Bike cycling on the flat doesn't really replicate running, and you've got to do a lot more of it to get the same cardiovascular effect. But hill reps on the bike, things like 10 times 2 minutes, hurtling back down recovery, i.e. short recovery, and then back up again. I found that really effective. I've also found that cycling anyway, and hill reps in particular, very useful for mountain running. That's a slightly different story, but if I was injured, the combination of these two would be the most effective ones that I've used.
Just a point about coming back from injury as well is I think it's really important to take your time. There's a bit of a golden rule is you don't try and chase lost training. If you've lost a week or you've lost a month, don't then try and in the next 3 weeks do 4 weeks worth of training, because you'll just get injured again. And I think it's very, very tempting to just do a bit more. I would always take 2 weeks break, complete 2 weeks break at the end of the cross-country season. And I wouldn't even go in the pool or go on the bike or do anything. I would absolutely not do anything for 2 weeks. Now, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. And some people are, I've got to do something, I'm going to lose fitness. Yes, you are. That's the whole idea, because for me, it was a mental cleansing as well. It was just, I don't need to even think about doing anything for 2 weeks. And then I would take 3 weeks where I'd run every third day for a week, every second day for a week, and then probably take me 3 weeks before I'm doing 20, 30 miles a week. It was that long, but for me it worked, because I just didn't want to get re-injured or be ill again. It just takes that's just a bit of self-discipline.
Well, during the track,
Yes, I trained on the track all the way through the season and all the way through the career. Well, and that's maybe just a personal bit. Interval training, I know you can replicate the track on the grass or other things, but there's no hiding place on the track in terms of being able to monitor where you are. There's a discipline aspect of it. My club always did a session on the track, so it was handy for me as well. So even when I was focusing on mountain running, I still did a track session at least once a week, and even in the winter as part of cross country, I've also done a track session.
Yeah, likewise when I could. Anybody else?
What sort of variety would you be doing? You were talking about interval sessions. Was there much variety in what you would do from 1 week to the next, or did you have, 3 set things that you would rotate around?
It's quite, for me, again, because I was more home-based probably than Chris during the main part of the season, I would generally go down and follow the key sessions that Derek Parker had said, and there would be a variety. Yeah, I mean there would be a mix of short reps with high quantity or longer or a mix of reps or whatever. I think it is important occasionally to do that. Well, it's important to have that variety. But there would be a few key sessions that you would, for me, the 12-400s, the 20 seconds recovery every 4 or 5 weeks would tell me where I am fitness-wise, and I would use that as a kind of barometer of success. But I did like the variety and mixing things up. We even did powerlifts occasionally. I attempted, a powerlift where we've got a competitive aspect to training. But yeah, variety. For me, I think consistency is the key thing, and making sure that you consistently stick to your routine through thick and thin. If it's snowing out there, go and train in the Clyde Tunnel if you can't get on the track. Don't just say it's snowing and therefore I'm not going to train today, or go out and get spikes on and do a session in the snow or on the golf course or whatever, But make sure you stick to your routine, and obviously if you have to adapt, you adapt, but don't be beaten by external options. It's easy to say, I know it's hard to do it.
Yeah, I think I tend to try and be a bit progressive. So it depends on what I was trying to achieve. I mean, certainly for the track season, it's more important that there's a degree of specificity about the sessions that you're doing. And so when I say progressive, it might be you might do 8 400s in a week with a certain time of recovery, and then the next week you're either doing 10 if you're building towards endurance, or you might do 8 the following week, but you're trying to get them a second faster or half a second faster, or you're starting to reduce the recovery. And then your third week, it just depends which way trying to go, sort of getting into the coaching theory in a way. But you just, having said all of that, there is, and certainly for the cross country, there is no magic formula. I think the thing is have a program that you believe in and stick to it, and it builds, you know, it builds week on week, month on month, and also for the likes of us, it builds year on year. So why were we running so well, you know, when we're 36, 37, 38, and now Bobby, you know, 40 and a bit? It's because there's a whole bunch of, there's a whole stack of experience and endurance, but also we know exactly what works for us. So the last 2 or 3 years, I knew what sessions. If I did 5 for 5 minutes with about 2 minutes recovery, that was a key session for me. It worked. Now, you know, I'm sure some physiologists could say, well, actually, they'd be better doing 6 for 4 minutes or 4 for 7 minutes. 5 for 5 minutes worked for me, particularly if I was doing it with the lads on this particular bit and I got to a certain lamppost. I knew I was in shape, you know, 2 weeks before the national, and the psychological benefit that gives you is as much as some physiologists saying, well, actually, what you've just achieved there is X, Y, and Z.
Okay, we've only given half an hour, probably, so probably best if we can do stuff without.